All right. Man, that is loud. Well, I just figured you were either asleep or dead. A little bit of both. I'm just a little dead. I'm just mostly dead. Hey, well, good evening. My name is Mike Hodson. I'm one of the 910 pastors that meet a whole 25 feet that way. If we've not met, nice to meet you. Hey, good to see you again. If we have met, man, why are you still here? Hey, I love you guys. I'm excited you're here. And you know what? You look around, think, man, where is everybody? Oh, my gosh. Think of it this way. Jesus Christ took 12, one hung himself, and the other 11 changed all of eternity. So you guys have just as much power as they do. So you are here, we are here, the Bible's here, God is here. We're going to get talking. Sound good? Yep. All right. This is like the introvert service where everyone's like, just don't look at me, I'll be okay. It's all right, because I'm going to talk, I'm going to do my thing, regardless of how you're feeling. I love hanging out. So, hey, let me pray, and then we're just going to get chatting about some real talk. So, let's pray. Lord, we thank you so much for who you are, for an opportunity to gather in your name, to open a living, breathing, powerful book called Your Word, the Bible, God. Right now, we ask you use this time, use me, speak through me, and may this be your moment, whatever you want this moment to be. We love you, Lord, in your name we pray. Amen. Hey, all right, my name is Mike. A couple things about me you need to know. I am a 9th and 10th pastor. I've been at North Coast for just about 12 years-ish, almost 13. And about 5 months ago, I did one of the craziest things that I could possibly ever imagine doing. My wife and I, we adopted 3 children, and we're doing things a little bit backwards because 3 kids move in our house, a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 9-year-old, and now we're in process to adopt their older brother, who is 14. So I just had a freshman. How crazy is that? I don't know if you guys have little siblings, brothers or sisters or cousins or anybody like that. I didn't grow up with like a whole lot of family around me, and so I don't remember what it's like to be a little kid. I'm 36 years old. I wasn't a kid for very long. It was a long, long time ago. And I don't know if it's just my kids or your kids or whose kids. I don't know if you have kids. I just kind of let that one fly. So if you do have kids, I'd love to meet them sometime. I'm sure they're awesome. If you don't have kids, well, in the future, may God bless you with little crazy kids, because I get questions all the time. Now, I know they're not my kids and they kind of come from a rough situation, but my kids ask me the craziest questions. For example, I was just asked the other day, Dad, can I stab you? Sure, why not? What do you say to that when someone comes up like, I was just wondering, I mean, we're here, you're here, I'm hanging out, I got this knife. Can I stab you? I mean, just a little stab. I mean, not like a big stab, but like a stab. And of course, I look at him like, sure, go for it. And they kind of laugh. He's a little 5-year-old like, and kind of runs away because he laughs like he's like an old cartoon villain, like, I will stab thee, father. The other day, my 9-year-old, his name is DJ. He is sweet. He comes up to me and puts his arm around me and hugs me. He goes, Dad, I love you. I was like, I love you too, son. And he says, can I punch you in the face? Seriously? These guys came from a crazy situation, so they just have crazy questions. And then the final one that really kind of changed my perspective, my little girl, her name is Tabrina. She is just an angel. She is all thing girl. She loves perfume and makeup and all that stuff. And the other day, I didn't wake up in time to save her from herself, so I walked down the hall, and she is already dolled up and has what is it, eyeshadow that is smeared like from her nose to like her ear. And she's like, I'm pretty, Dad. And she, instead of like one spray of perfume, pretty much like shook the bottle on herself. And so I opened the door and I was like, oh, and like needed a hazmat mask. But I walk out and I see her and she's like, Dad, don't I look cute? I was like, you look beautiful, baby. She goes, you look ugly. And I was like, thanks, babe. That's awesome. Can I get a hug? She goes, can I kick you? I was like, I love you to death. And so I was like, oh my gosh. But after a couple of these crazy questions, and really they're odd kids, but lovely kids. After these questions, I started answering them all the same way. They say, hey, can I punch you? Can I this? And it's like, yeah, you can. But there's going to be a consequence. I'm like, oh, really? Well, what if I did punch you? I said, oh, that'd be so sad, son, because I'd have to go to your funeral afterwards and we'd have to bury you. That'd be so sad. Well, Dad, can I kick you? I said, yes, but only if I get to kick you back. And you're like, you got a big old foot. I don't want you to kick me. And so we kind of do this back and forth. My house is a lot different than most homes. I get asked if I can be stabbed and punched and kicked and all that. And there are moments, ain't going to lie, I have laid in bed at night just looking at the ceiling thinking, what did I get myself into? I wasn't sure what I was getting into, but I kind of imagined like I'd be hanging out with little kids and they'd be like, Daddy, you're so awesome. And they make me like the cute little, what am I thinking, Father's Day cards and give you stuff and give you hugs and all that. No, I got kids who want to punch me and kick me and stab me. So I was like, all right, this is weird. But I've just sat in, my bed just thinking, God, what did I do? Are you kidding? This is crazy. Now, don't get me wrong. I love these kids to death, but it is just not what I expected at all, which is awesome. Now, with that, you might be thinking, okay, well, what does this have to do with me? 2014, sitting here in 11:12. How does that apply to anything going on in the Bible? Well, I think there are times that all of us have come to this point where we're thinking, what did I get myself into? I don't know if you've started a relationship. I love high school relationships so much because you get these people that come to you like, oh my gosh, Mike, I met the one. She's amazing, or he's great and they're awesome. And like within 24 hours, you're like, please get a restraining order. Can I pepper spray this guy? They're a freak. And you're like, yeah, no, there's some weirdos out there. You get these people like, oh my gosh, I got the greatest job ever. It's awesome. I'm making McDonald's, and nothing against McDonald's. I love me some McDonald's. And so there's like, I got McDonald's, and all of a sudden they have to work. Instead of getting a job, they have to work the job. Like, I hate McDonald's. All of us kind of get these times where we get really excited and think this is going to be sweet, and then we end up on the other side going, you lied. I didn't think this was going to be that way. And if you're going to be honest, let's just get real honest, because most of the time we just lie to you at church. I don't know why people use that term. Well, can I be honest with you? Does that mean you've been lying the whole time we've been talking? No. So I don't know why I just said that. I'm not lying. Or am I? So let me just kind of share something with you. I think there are times that if you've been following Jesus for a day, for a month, for a year, your whole life, if you've just been checking out Jesus, if you've looked at the Bible or anything going on with God and Jesus and his word, I think there are times we will come to it and say, how did I end up here? What? I thought you would become a Christian and this would happen, this would happen, this would happen, and yet I end up here. What in the heck? I thought I would, accept Jesus. I would lose like 35 pounds. All of a sudden, all these girls in the world would think I'm so awesome and cute and great. And that didn't happen. In fact, I gained a lot more weight. But it's good because there's more of me to love. Because Jesus, I love you so much. I want to be 2 times the size you are. So anyway, don't mind me. But really, if you all kind of get to that point where you start thinking about, how did I end up here? What does this look like? Have I really kind of got what I expected? And a lot of times we're going to be honest. We're going to say, no, I did not get what I expected. Because a lot of what we expect or what we think, or where we get into God and we're thinking, okay, I want X, Y, and Z, and we're looking for something, God says, no, that's not what I'm into. What I'm into is I'm into me. I'm into God being God, and you just following what God says. Got your Bibles, open them up. We're looking at the book of Luke. I know you're going through a series called Jesus Gram, where Chris has been talking and all the other leaders have been talking about how here's some kind of Instagram moments, if you would, moments that Jesus would post and share if he was if he had the technology that we do now. In fact, he didn't have that technology, but he has this technology. If you think about all the things that happened throughout all of history, why did just the little snippets end up in the Bible? Because they're there for a reason. All those little teachings, all those little moments, all those times we kind of catch up, it's because God said, that is so valuable. I want you, no matter when you read this, to know this story. And this story is one of those that if you read, you're thinking, oh my gosh, Jesus really calls out some folks right now. And I love the fact that Jesus was just a guy who said, look, this is what I'm about. This is what I do. I don't care what you like. I don't care what you need. I don't care what you think I should do. This is what I'm called to do. And he had such a mission and a goal, and he just had focus. So let's get going. We're in Luke chapter 14. Tricked you. Got to keep you on your toes. You never know. Where's the Bible going? I got to take a rest. I moved a bit. Here's the deal. I'll make some jokes. Anybody else like, that guy's so fat? We're going to fight in the parking lot. I'll tell you what. It's one thing to make fun of yourself. Anybody else making fun of him? We got issues. All right, so here's what's going on. Jesus is out preaching and teaching and traveling. That's what the man does. He is never in one place for too long. So he is out teaching, and he finds himself where he usually finds himself, gathered around by this whole crowd. And he kind of looks around, and I just kind of imagine, this is not in the Bible, but this is just me thinking, that he probably looked around, and God being God knows what everyone's thinking, and looks around and goes, really? Really? These are the people who are going to follow me. All right, let's just make this really clear. And I love the fact that's still happening today. I don't know if you've ever been to maybe a community night here, or if you've hung out at another church, or an 11-12 gathering, or maybe even your small group, or maybe even right now and tonight, and you're looking around going, really? They're here? Really? What? That's the greatest part about all this, because no matter where you're from, no matter who you are, you can all be a part of this. So Jesus looks around, this is what he says. In verse 25, chapter 14, it says, large crowds were traveling with Jesus. And turning to them, he said, if anyone comes after me and does not hate his father and mother, his wife and children, his brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. And if anyone does not carry his cross and follow me, cannot be my disciple. So I just imagine Jesus hanging out, and everyone's like, oh man, I love Jesus, this is awesome. There's always crowds. If you ever notice, anytime there's a crowd anywhere, not just the Bible, but anywhere in life, you notice a couple things. First, there are the people that are so sold out for whatever this event is. If there's, a band playing, people are like, oh, I love this music. Sports events, sales, shopping. My wife went to Black Friday, and I just can't think anything worth standing in line for like 12 hours all night long that I can't order the next day online. So whatever. But this is kind of one of those things. When there's a crowd, there's always like that hardcore committed. And so there's a crowd of people following Jesus, and they're like, we love Jesus. We're all about what Jesus is doing. But then there's also a second part of that crowd. That's kind of the haters that are just looking for Jesus to fail. They're like, man, let's keep following because I'm sure this guy's going to say something. By now, people are already wanting him dead. People are hating him. They just want him to get out of the next city, get out of the next town. They're trying to catch him up. Every time the man spoke, somebody came with a question like, I'm so smart. What about this? And he says, oh, what about that? Here's this. And like, oh, dang it. He's smarter than I am. He's God. Quit asking questions. Then there's the third part of the crowd, the people who are just there because there's a crowd. You ever notice, especially at school, I remember this from years back, when a crowd showed up at school, I always thought, oh my gosh, someone's in a fight, there's something going on. And so I ran over to the crowd, and you're like, oh, they're just watching a mime. I don't know why a mime would be at high school. Don't ask me. So what's a mime? Google it. I don't care. But yeah, whenever there's a crowd, you kind of want to see what's going on. You drive down the beach and, you see kind of like just people hanging out, then a huge group of people, then nobody hanging out. You're like, what's going on in that crowd? Everybody wants to see what's going on in the crowd. People love crowds. So Jesus is walking and talking, and he turns to this huge crowd, people who love him and follow him, people who do not like him and want him dead, and then people who are just kind of there hanging out, looking around. He says, hey, you guys want to follow me? They're like, yeah, Jesus is awesome. He could heal the dead. He could cast out demons. Oh, it's sweet. He goes, great. All you got to do is one thing. What's that, Jesus? Hate your family, hate your mom, hate your dad, hate your kids, hate everybody. You good? But, here's the deal. Jesus drops some of the harshest things in life, and he says some of the things to get your attention. Now, before you walk out of here thinking, oh, man, I got to call my mom. Hey, Mom, what's up? Oh, no, I'm just chilling. Oh, yeah, thanks. What's for dinner? Okay, great. Oh, by the way, I hate you. Bye. No, you don't want to do that stuff. What Jesus is talking about in this, he says, look, there are plenty of times throughout the Bible where actually when he's on the cross about to die, he actually calls one of his disciples and says, hey, take care of my mother. I love my mother. Plenty of times he talks about the sanctity of marriage and how you are supposed to work hard in a relationship to support one another. He talks about how you love him and love others. He is all about the family, all about relationships. But what he wants is him to be number one. He says, Mike, do you love your kids? I love my kids. Great. Hey, Mike, do you love your wife? Yeah, I love my wife. Hey, do you love your friends? I love my friends. Do you love your church? Do you love your community? Do you love the people around you? I love them, God. He says, that's awesome. Do you love me more? And that's the part where you got to stop and ask. Because you say, you know what? No, I love coming to community nights. I love coming to small groups. Yeah, I love coming to 11, 12. You know what? I love my friends and the Christian club we have and hanging out. Not only that, I love my unsaved friends. They're so awesome to hang out. We just talk about life and share things. I just love being around people. But Jesus says, do you love me more? He says, there's nothing wrong with all that, but do you love me more? Because it's real simple. He says, look, if you don't love me more, if I'm not your number one priority, eventually you're going to leave me for those. I've been doing high school ministry since 1997. That's longer than some of you have been alive. What's that? Hey, congratulations. Maybe we share a birthday. No, we don't. But if you think about that, I've been doing ministry, just working with 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds, just high school students since some of you were born. And what I've seen time and time and time and time again, not just in high school, but in my own life and my friend's life, if something is more important than Jesus, eventually that's what you'll follow. People say, no, I love my Jesus, but I really love my boyfriend or girlfriend. Eventually, that's who they follow as their boyfriend or girlfriend. The older you get, I love Jesus, but I really love my grades. I really love my sport. I really love the guys in my neighborhood that I hang out with. Eventually, that becomes a driving force in your life. As you get older, you'll say, I love my spouse. I love my kids. I love my job. And that's what's going to, drive your life. I do love my kids. I do love my job. I love everything that I have been blessed with, but not more than I love my Jesus, because I understand that God has given me those. And if anything else is before God, one, you'll end up following that, and two, that thing can fail. If I love my family more, God, please don't ever let this happen, but I love my family more than my God, one car accident, that family's gone. Now what do I got? I love my grades more. You graduate, then you're looking at each other going, well, I got grades. Now what? If you put something in front of God, eventually that can be taken away, and eventually you will follow that. So Jesus looks around and says, do you love me? Because if you love me, you will follow me. But here's the deal. Here's the other part of this whole thing when he says, hey, look, you will love me more than that. Verse 27, and if anyone does not carry this cross and follow me, they cannot be my disciple. See, now, today, 2014, we look around and we see the cross as a Christian thing. Maybe it's in some of our houses. Maybe some of you guys got tattoos early. Maybe your family has, the necklaces, the earrings, the clothes, all that. You got this fashion. You're like, yeah, the cross. I love Jesus. But the cross was one of the most disgusting, painful, hideous way to be put to death. It'd be like me walking in here right now going, yo, check it out. I got this electric chair. I got this tattoo right here. Man, that is lethal injection right there. Oh, over here, I got somebody getting shot in the face. What up? And you're looking at that and you're thinking, wow, that's crazy. But we get the execution of Jesus and it becomes a fashion statement. And he says, look, if you don't follow your cross, or you don't pick up your cross and follow me, then you cannot be my disciple. Where Jesus is saying, look, if you're not willing to not only love me more than your family, love me more than your career, your job, your college, all these other things, are you willing to love me more than you? He says, look, you got to pick up your cross. That means dying to self. And that means putting that all aside, saying, this is what's more important. I used to love this verse growing up. I became a Christian at about end of 18, 19 years old, kind of that transition where you're kind of following Jesus, but you're still kind of being a knucklehead and you're kind of walking in both worlds. And where I came from, I grew up right outside of Oakland. I spent all my time in the Bay Area. By the time I was in junior high, I was drinking, partying, spun out. By the time I was 15, 16, I was involved in gangs and on and on and on and on. So I give you that to understand where I'm coming from here. When somebody said, look, you got to pick up your cross and you got to die, I went to my youth pastor. I said, dude, that is so awesome. What I would love to do is go out and die for Jesus. He kind of looked at me and goes, what are you talking about? I said, you don't understand, man, because where I'm from, you wouldn't go up to one of your friends and be like, hey, buddy, I love you. Could we get a hug? Come on, bring it in. Nah. But you'd be like, look, I got your back. I love you. I die for you. And you're like, all right, cool. That means your highest honor of commitment, that I was willing to lay my life down to get your back and protect you no matter what. And so when you'd say, hey, look, I die for you, like, okay, great, I'm committed. And so when I read this, I was like, oh my gosh, Jesus wants me to die. I'm in. And then my youth pastor's like, whoa. Before you go out and try to get yourself killed, he's not talking about dying. He's actually talking about living. If you think about this, dying's easy. You say, what? All of us are going to get a chance to die, right? I haven't heard of anybody who outlived death. Nobody. I'm 2,000 years old. Well, someday it's catching up with you. But you look good for 2,000. Here's the deal. Everybody's going to die. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to be fun. It's not going to hurt. It's not going to be just destructive and just sad. But we're all going to get a chance to die. Jesus says, no. Don't die for me. Live for me. And it's a daily choice. It's pretty easy to die. We can go out right now and we could find a billion different ways to die. but to make a moment by moment, a choice by choice, I'm going to die to self and I'm going to live for Jesus. The way I talk, the way my next thought processes through my mind, the way I interact when I go home with my friends and family, my little brothers and sisters that are just so annoying, the way that I turn on the computer and what I download and what I stream, the way I make jokes about the people who don't know I'm talking about them, the way I lie to my parents, the way that I fill in the blank. The rest of your life is a moment by moment to die to self and choose Jesus. And he says, look, if you love me more than your family, your friends, your aspirations, your careers, your goals, if you love me more than yourself, then you'll be my disciple. If anybody else is out there, anything out there in front of me, don't bother, because eventually that's where you're going to go. And he says, look, there is a cost to follow Jesus. Are you willing to pay that cost? But he doesn't stop there. He continues. It's only a few verses. Wow, let's keep going. Verse 28 says, suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Will he not first sit down and estimate the cost to see if he has enough money to complete it? For if he lays a foundation and is not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule him, saying, this is the fellow who began to build and was not able to finish. He says, look, there's a cost. He says, look, imagine you start a project, you start doing something, you start to build a foundation, like, I'm going to build it, it's going to be awesome. You tell all your friends, hey, this is what I'm going to do, it's going to be awesome, it's going to be crazy. Everyone's going to look at it, and you get about, halfway in, you're like, oh, this is hard. It's not what I expected. I'm going to quit. And then everybody says, hey, aren't you the guy who started building that and you never? I don't know about you. I love starting things. I love projects. There's probably like 100 books in my house. I've read a chapter or two, and then I forgot about them. There's a million projects around my house. My wife hates it because I'll like tear down a wall going, hey, what we're going to do here is build this, and we're going to put something over there. And I'll break stuff down and be like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know what I'm doing. So I always call people to come over and help me out. I ended up coaching a football team for my 9-year-old. I'm like, all right, yeah, football. I love watching and playing football. I don't know how to coach football, so I had to get another guy to help coach, and I had some friends come over and help coach. I'm like, just hit him. But it's flag football, so they can't hit him. So that's all I know is hit him. So anyway. But there's a lot of different things that you can get started with doing. How many of you started with friendships and relationships? Like, oh, this is so cool. They want so much time. They're annoying. I'm just going to quit calling and quit hanging out. Hey, you know what? My kids, we have a dog, and my kids are like, I love the dog. I love the dog. And day 1, day 2, they fed the dog. They picked up poop after the dog. Day 3, day 4, the dog's looking hungry and getting all skinny, like, I'm dying. And there's poop all over the house. And like, what about the dog? Like, I don't like doing that anymore. All of us love getting started with stuff. And I think at times, even in our faith, we get excited about, oh my gosh, I feel all fuzzy and warm inside. I went to camp. Maybe there's that song, that worship moment. Oh, yes. And you just love what you feel. And God says, all right, great. But are you willing to really pay this price? If I want your life, if I want every moment after this, are you willing to get in? I think one of the worst things in the world is saying, this is what I believe, this is what I'm all about, I'm all in, and a couple weeks, couple months, couple years later, you're like, no, that's not it. I think one of the reasons why a lot of people don't like Christians and don't like the church is because they've had a bad experience with people who claim to be Christians, and they did not honor Christ with their words, their actions, their thoughts, their lives. And now you and I are living through some of their mistakes. Can't tell you how many people are like, oh, hey, what's up? And we'll start talking, hanging out. And they say, hey, what do you do for a living? I'm like, actually, I work with high school students, because I never want to tell them I work at a church. I'll explain why. I say, I work with high school students. Oh, that's sweet. Where do you work with high school? Oh, over in Vista. Oh, so you're a teacher? No. I'm kind of a mentor or leader sort of guy. Okay, that's great. We'll talk a bit more and say, oh, so where do you do this at? Oh, I do it at North Coast Church. You're a pastor? And the first look, they look at me like, you ain't a pastor. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Thank you very much. I don't want to look like a pastor a day in my life. I think of guys in suits who are like, God bless you, brother. I don't know why they have a southern accent. But I never want to be that guy. And so they look at me like, yeah, right. But I never come out and say, hey, I'm a pastor, because most people think, okay, pastor, church, Jesus, I know what you're all about. I want nothing to do with you. I want to get relationship and show people my lifestyle and talk with them and say, hey, this is what I'm all about. Oh, by the way, I do love Jesus and I do follow my Lord. Because the way I do that, more people are like, oh, man, I could tell by the way you talk to your wife and treat your kids and the way you interact with others. And, man, you are a little bit different. You're not one of those, you're going to burn in hell guys. Another southern, I don't know why. But it's one of those things that by the way you live your life, are you all in? God says, look, I want every moment after. Are you in? And he says, look, if you're going to build, there's going to be a cost. But we continue. Or suppose a king is about to go to war against another king. Will he not first sit down and consider whether he is able with 10,000 men to oppose one coming against him with 20,000? If he is not able, he will send a delegation while the other is still a long way off and will ask for terms of peace. In the same way, any of you who does not give up everything cannot be my disciple. He says, look, you got to love me more than your family, more than your life. There is going to be a cost. Are you willing to pay that price? And then he says, are you willing to not pay that price? There will be a cost. It will cost you your life. But can you not pay that price? He's saying, look, imagine we're going to war. And you look around and say, man, I got 10,000 of my closest friends. I think we're doing pretty good. We're pretty, we're tough. We've been messing around here in Vista a little bit. We're going to roll into Escondido and down the 15 to Poway. We're going to roll up and we're going to take care of these guys, all right? And then we hear that Escondido has like 20,000 guys like, man, I like you, but I don't like you that much, you kind of scary, and these guys got big old, I'm not going to roll with that. And so we start talking, and then all of a sudden like, man, well, if Escondido comes in, they're going to beat us. They're going to slaughter us. What do we do? Well, you got to go out and meet them and come to terms with it and say, hey, look, here's where you're at. See, if we get in this relationship with God, he's saying, look, if you do not pay this price, there will still be a price paid. Trust me. It may be tomorrow, might be next year, might be, 50 years from now. It will definitely be an eternity, but someday there will be a price. And if we're not willing to say, hey, look, my life, my will, my goals, my life, my family, my this, if that's not more important, that's not more important than God. No, bad. If that is more important than God, it's not going to work out. And it's not a matter of, hey, I'm not going to do anything except sit on my hands and say, okay, God, what are you doing? But it's going to God saying, God, I want to meet you where you're at. God, I want to come to terms with this surrender. I want to come and give up. See, the thing is with the surrender versus a treaty, and God wants surrender. Because a treaty, we both walk in and say, hey, look, Stephen, I know you want to fight, and I'm kind of intimidated by you, so here, I'll promise to give you this, and you promise to give me that, and we come to terms, right? But what Jesus says, he goes, very easy. You give me everything, or I take everything. Let me think about that. So you're saying that someday you're going to have my life? Yes. Someday I'm going to be in eternity? Yes. It's just going to be with you or without you? Okay, I'm in. It's not a treaty. It's not a working things out. It's a surrender. And Jesus says, look, if you're not willing to pay the price, if you're not willing to come to terms with it, if you're not willing to see, look, eventually there will be a choice, but it may be too late. He's saying, look, you got to deal with this. Sometimes we read this and we think, man, that's crazy. And then he kind of starts to finish up with this. And this is one of the, let's just read it and get in. It says, salt is good, but if it loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is fit neither for the soil nor for the manure pile. It is thrown out. He who has ears, let him hear. Oh, salt. You know what that means? I'm asking, I don't know. It's salt. I don't want throw it in a manure pile? I read a bunch of stuff about this, and some people say, well, actually, Mike, what it says is salt was the original seasoning, and it makes everything taste good. So as a Christian, you must season your world in such a way that you are tasty for others to see. Really? I'm going to walk around like, what's up? I'm Mr. Salty. You want to lick my arm? That's all right. Go ahead. Come on. Bring it in. It's for Jesus. Shut up. Other people say, well, salt is a natural preservative, and so what they would do is take their food and they would salt pack it, and so it wouldn't rot and it wouldn't go bad and it wouldn't waste and all that. And so what we need to do is preserve the world. So we need to be so salty that other people look at us and say, you are saving my soul. You still don't know how that works. And it says it's not going to be good for the soil. I don't know. Anybody have a farm? Yeah, neither do I. So do you put soil and salt together? I don't know. And it says not even good for the manure pile. Why do you put salt on poop? I don't know. I don't want to know. But if you're like, to keep it fresh. Yeah, I need some fresh poop. Nothing worse than old poop. I need some fresh poop right now. 11, 12. That's interesting. Thank you. I don't know what it means, but you know what it means? I'll tell you this. You can argue about, is it a preservative? Is it a seasoning? Is it for the manure pile? But Jesus is saying this. I know, just reading into it, this is what it says. It says, look, if you claim to be something but are not that, you know what I'm saying? Yes. If you claim to be something but are not what you claim, you're no good. I told you that there was that phase in my life where I was kind of Christian, kind of not Christian. I was trying to dance between two worlds, and I tried to go to church at times. I'd be like, yeah, praise Jesus, this is awesome. And I go to Bible study, and it was great. So like Wednesday nights when I had my youth group, and then Sunday mornings, oh man, I was good. But then Friday and Saturday night, I was out in clubs, and I was still in my gang, and we would get in fights. I'd be selling things that you should not be selling. I was trying to hook up with anybody who would talk to me. Trying, didn't work. I was, check me out, all right, you know what I'm saying? You hurt my heart. Here's what I'm saying. I had this time where I claimed to be one thing, and I'd go out and be like, hey, what's up? This is awesome. And then I'd go out another time and be like, man, I'm going to punch you in your face. And it got to a point where you really can't be a very good Christian, and you can't be a really good sinner. You're kind of this caught in the middle, hypocrite, not really good at either. Because I couldn't go to church and say, hey, man, I want to pray for you. I'm totally sold out for God. I really want to do this, because I knew in the back of my mind, in a matter of hours, I was going out to do the next thing, the next party, the next whatever, the next fight, I was just out to do the next thing. I love the next thing. But then I'd be out doing that next thing. And I mean, real clearly, this is a true story, and I even kind of laugh at it. We were out at a bar one night. We're hanging out with my friends, kind of talking, and some words got exchanged. And I remember I reach across and I punch this dude in the face. And he goes down, and I step back, and all my friends are like, oh! And I look at him and think, oh, that probably hurt. I wonder if he knows Jesus. Because I was so conflicted. I knew about God, but I also knew about the world. I was not a good hypocrite. Well, no, I'm sorry. I was a great hypocrite, but I was not a good Christian, and I was not a good sinner anymore, because you become this thing where you're neither. Salt isn't good, and it's not useful. It's not seasoned. It's nothing. And so I came to a point where I knew in my life that the world started to separate. I could chase the world and my sin nature and all the things that I said I really were all about, and then I could chase my God. And eventually I had to come to a point where in this story, he says, hey, do you want to follow me? What's more important, your family, your friends, your reputation, your party, your sexuality, your money, your popularity, your culture? Or is it me, Mike? Eventually I had to come to a place where I had to make a decision. Is this God really my God? And if this God is my God, not just for my eternity, but for my Tuesdays, my Wednesdays, my every moment by moment choice, then I've got to do something about it. I've got to count the cost and pay the cost. But on the other hand, if this God isn't worth my Tuesdays, my Thursdays, my reputation, my sexuality, my friends, my drinking, my partying, if my God was not worth that, then he is not worth my eternity. I don't know what sort of God you have. I don't know if you've ever asked yourself that question and kind of looked at it and said, all right, God, am I willing to die for you? Cool. But am I willing to live for you? Am I willing to make these decisions, and am I willing to move in such a way that people say, you're a little bit different? Am I willing to talk in such a way that people say, your words are a little bit different? Are you willing to count the cost that it might affect your families, your relationships, your friends, what people think about you, the way you dress, what you post online, your Instagram, your Facebook status, your Twitter account, your videos, your entertainment, on and on and on? If it does not affect all of that, then my question is, do you really follow this Jesus? Now, I'm not going to say you cannot sin. We struggle. We fight against sin. But there's a huge difference between saying, dang it, I messed up, versus I'm going to mess up so big, this is going to be awesome. And you need to make a decision, choice by choice, moment by moment. Am I following my Jesus? Even when I struggle, I look at myself and say, dang it, I will not do that again. Or you're saying, you know what, Jesus, I'm going to put you on the shelf right now. I'm going to go do my thing with my friends, and I'll be back on Sunday or Saturday or Wednesday. So my question is this. What good is a Jesus if he's only a part-time Jesus? But then again, what good is this life if you know there's more out there, and yet you're going to choose this life over it? Jesus was killed because he said a lot of stuff that was in your face. And he said, look, you want to be a Christian? You want to follow God? Then I'm more important than everything else you do. If he came and said, hey, buddy, do what you want, and then just say a prayer, he wouldn't have been put to death. This is a guy that stood by what he said, that lived it out moment by moment, and said, you know what? Yeah, I'm willing to die for what I believe. Are you willing to live for what you believe? Let's pray.